everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with another test disc from Arrow Video, diving into one of the upcoming releases in October for Spawn, released in 1997, directed by Asisa Cinema, who did a lot of visual effects back in the 90s, mainly known for his more visual effects side, his work behind Jurassic Park. Had some involvement in the Abyss film, James Cameron, mostly a visual effects kind of creator more than a filmmaking director, which is definitely apparent when you watch this film. It's interesting. I looked at his kind of IMDb listing, looked at some of his credits, and he just has some involvement in Paranormal Activity 2, and some of his other directed-based work has been mostly animation, Scooby-Doo, things like that kind of thing. So this was his first, and I believe only, live-action film that he directed, mainly as a project, being heavy special effects and bringing this character, Spawn, to life on the big screen. As mentioned, I've got test discs from Arrow Video, so thank you very much, and I'll be exploring basically the theatrical and director's cut on the new upcoming Blu-ray and 4K release for Spawn, I believe in the 2nd of October. It will be available on the Arrow Video channel, so if you're not too sure about watching this again, check it out on the Arrow Video, maybe check it out first, but it's got a 7-day free trial. If you pick up the Arrow editions, you usually get a 14-day trial, a month in some cases, or if you want to take the plunge for October, Halloween, definitely worth considering. I've got Blu-ray test disc versions where some of the kind of collaborators, I've got 4K editions. I would imagine the 4K looks even better than what these versions are, but the Blu-ray, not to jump ahead, were very, very good. So these were just as good quality. I imagine the 4K will be even better in terms of that as well. So just like the V Cinema films, I will be diving into my thoughts and impressions, my honest thoughts and impressions, don't get me wrong, and the special features, which are definitely worth its weight in gold. Definitely if you're a lifetime Spawn fan and want to know more about the film and production and cast and crew and talk about the whole legacy of what this film kind of, jumped on essentially going forward. So a lot to dive into in terms of, both aspects there. So without further ado, let's dive into Spawn.
It's time. Imagine a substance with the power to destroy humanity. Imagine a hero on the verge of creation. From flesh to steel, and the world has a new hero. Spawn.
So let's dive into the feature film first. If you just want to know about the special features only, not too bothered about my thoughts and impressions of the film, there will be a timeline in the video itself. So if you want to jump ahead and find out more about the special features involved in this edition. I watched the director's cut version of Spawn, which had a theatrical and director's cut. It's very strange, the fact that this was a famously an R-rated, violent comic graphic novel, being Spawn, and they went with a PG-13 rating for theatrical, which is very, very strange. I don't think anyone's going to watch the theatrical cut, but the director's cut is a slight more kind of bit more gory, a bit more swearing, a bit more of the R-rated edge to it, which it needs to be. Not anything massive, but just enough to kind of give you that little bit of edge, which the film desperately is trying to go for. Very strange film. I haven't seen this in about 20 plus years. I can't even remember the last time I watched it. I had to kind of deep dive into my Letterboxd kind of history. But I remember watching this when I was younger, in terms of the early 90s, and it's unfortunate for the film, and this is why I have the fantastic 4K release for The Crow, Brandon Lee, which is the definitive version of the idea. This was 1994, Spawn 1997. I definitely think the blueprint, the template, was based off something like The Crow in terms of how it was sold, in terms of this darker, kind of grittier, kind of, anti-hero kind of character. This is kind of some of the bigger Marvel films. Obviously, this is even before Blade, or just on the same time as Blade in terms of Spawn. But 1994, we had some of the DC Batman films, this time. So this was a much more of a darker, gritty, kind of, punk rock kind of edge. Got Michael J. White in the film, which is our main kind of, assassin for hire, working for Martin Sheen, and he has basically been set up by a freakishly kind of devilish clown played by John Leguizamo, which is known for the kind of John Wick films, and he was in the Mario Brothers film as well, so very early in his career, but definitely has the most in the film, which I'll get to in a moment. So basically been set up by him, a kind of an agent of kind of hell itself, and basically they want to start the apocalypse on Earth. And hell has his army ready, and he needs this character, Michael J. White's character, to basically be the commander, the leader of this army, to basically storm the gates of heaven, and then they can conquer the kind of, Armageddon that is Earth. Essentially, Martin Sheen's been promised the world. Second time doing this since doing the kind of Dead Zone, which also would be the president. Also would cause Armageddon if not stopped. So twice he's played very similar kind of roles, I guess. And basically, as to expected, our main character gets killed, gets set up, and basically comes back and has to agree, I believe. It's very confusing in how the film's trying to portray that. He doesn't, being told that he's doing it, he has to agree willingly to be a servant of hell, to be the spawn commander, and he gets this really kind of organic, kind of fleshy kind of suit, which he gets sent back to Earth. 5 years later in the future, and basically has limited memories and just kind of trying to figure out who he is, his connection with this woman, which is his ex-wife, and his daughter, which is the more emotional human side of it. And while he's on Earth, he's basically trying to go for figure out who betrayed him, who basically killed him, and he's just trying to piece it all together. And there's some manipulation and kind of, back and forth between our kind of clown character, established clown, and Martin Sheen's character involved in the mix. And the film is, let's get to it quick. It is an hour-and-a-half movie, even for the director's cut, and it is getting through that stuff very fast. It's interesting on the extras, not jumping the gun too much. It did talk about they did film a lot of stuff at the beginning of the more relationship aspect. This definitely is afraid to kind of land on anything. It doesn't allow any scene to sit for any longer than it needs to be. It's kind of intercutting with kind of rapid editing and visual effects and kind of different styles, and it's just trying to get through that first half an hour from when he's setting up the concept to getting killed, to get into hell, to get back into Earth again 5 years later, then to get into that suit, to get to that main scene in the kind of party, kind of, elaborate kind of, dinner party, which he busts through the kind of glass ceiling and in a very heavily special effects Spawn kind of suit, and basically wants to go after Martin Sheen and has like various kind of, machine guns and various things ready for him along the way. And he very much is trying to go, get to that first kind of initial encounter and get to that big visual effects, kind of special effects heavy sequence to kind of sell the film. He doesn't want to waste its time. Maybe those scenes at the very early portion of the film in terms of him and his wife, in terms of Michael J. White's character and his screen partner, maybe they weren't working, maybe they're slowing the film down. I do agree that you do need some heart in the film. You do need to care and invest in what's going on. And I think sometimes editing or pacing can be a big issue. The Crow definitely was a good example of good pacing, of kind of telling the story organically through the supporting characters, intercutting that between past and future, between the crime scene and, scenes of them together. Even Deadpool, something like has a bit more of a smaller budget, paced itself in terms of doing action moments, flashback into the more human side of him before becoming the merc with the mouth. So it's all about pacing, all about editing. And when you've got a visual effects director, just like Michael J. White said in his new interview, when you've got a visual effects director, you're going to get a lot of visual effects. And this is exactly what this film has for sure. More priority over anything else in terms of what the film's going for. And it is a bizarre film in terms of what it offers. Not to say the film is completely terrible. Let's just say, quoting Josh Brolin in his new recent interview,
I'll say things like, it has an audience, stuff like that.
Yeah, I want the list of keywords to listen for the next time you make a dud.
Yeah. You'll notice it. You'll notice
it has an audience. It has a fan base. It has a following. And even all the creators and even the people, the extras, also kind of using very specific kind of phrasing and wording. This is universally not a good film. It is a bad film, but it has an audience. Its fans based on the source material in terms of the graphic novel, and the fact they've not done another live action version of this film since 1997 is pretty bonkers to me. It's pretty crazy, because you could definitely do this film now, probably for the same budget, to be fair, and you probably could do a lot more with the character, a lot more with the technology that is available. But obviously during the 90s, there are going to be some restrictions. There are going to be some questionable choices. Even for 90s standards, it's a bit questionable, but we do get a lot of that stuff with like The Lawnmower Man for sure, and various other films of the 90s that were trying to kind of do the same thing that James Cameron was doing with something like The Abyss. Visual effects, special effects, practical effects. Some of it's actually pretty goddamn good. Some of it surprisingly holds up pretty well, especially towards the third act of the film, but just depending on what they chose to go with for the individual scene, and you're going to get mixed results in there for sure. Not to say the film doesn't have its moments, because it definitely does for sure. I like some of the more action stuff towards the end in terms of the bike sequence. I like some key moments in the film that it goes for, and it's a very simple, very kind of, you know, constructive kind of plot in terms of, you know, an apocalypse, end of the world, hell and heaven kind of thing. It's not great, it's not amazing by any means, it's not really about the story or the characters, it's about the visual effects, about the larger-than-life character, anti-hero character Spawn, which makes sense why they spawned the animation series within the same year as well, which ran on for 3 seasons, which had a much more of a darker edge, more R-rated, and can do more, can get away with more in fact animation. I heard it's very, very good, and I will be checking it out very, very soon as well to see what I think of that. So what are your thoughts and impressions on Spawn, released in 1997? Has this film hold up for you? Have you seen it since release? How do you still have the old VHS DVD copy? Will you be upgrading to the new 4K or Blu-ray edition? I'd love to know your thoughts and impressions on that. So let's dive into the special features that you'll be getting on the edition. So as mentioned, a lot of special features being offered here in terms of the Blu-ray and the 4K edition for Spawn. In terms of the behind-the-scenes stuff, you're definitely going to get your weight in gold for sure. Not only do you get a really good transfer, talking about the new transfer, I think is definitely an improvement from what I have seen previously in terms of DVD and VHS back in the day. It looks really good. I imagine the 4K looks even better. In terms of the look of the film, the color grading, it definitely looks really, really good, especially with the more fleshier kind of, you know, organic kind of suit and the visual effects and special effects on it. It definitely utilizes various different aspects of that kind of side. Some are in great degree in terms of the little details on his suit and his injuries and how the Spawn mask kind of forms in his face. That's pretty cool. The cape is not too bad, to be honest. It's very obviously noticeable, but it's not too bad. Some of it in hell, pretty bad, pretty kind of, you know, very early kind of, you know, special effects in terms of that kind of computer animation, you know, with dawdling eyes and just very strange in terms of its background stuff. Despite the quality of the film, the transfer is really fantastic. I imagine it would look even better on the 4K, but the special features are definitely where it shines the most in terms of brand new interviews and insights into the practical effects, the editing, the music. Michael J. White does a brand new interview, as I was mentioned as well. It really kind of dives into his kind of, you know, behind the scenes in terms of his stories. It's really hilarious and really on point that he says basically he went to audition for Jax, which he thought was Mortal Kombat, but accidentally got this gig instead because the character is also called Jax, and he wanted to do Mortal Kombat, and he got this gig instead. So that's hilarious. In fact, he didn't even know about the material. He just went in thinking it was Mortal Kombat and got something else and completely else. That's funny. That's hilarious. You do get some really cool interviews and insights into, you know, what the project was and, you know, the people that are involved in it. And as mentioned, you get the practical effects aspect, the music choices, the editing. It talks about a lot of the kind of the creative process behind it and just the kind of more honest and kind of like, you know, yeah, it has a fan base. It's not a great film, but it's something that people do enjoy. It's something that does have a cult following, and people have more found it later on down the year. I definitely would say there is something in the film experimenting with technology, experimenting with visual effects and practical, then very mixed results, while kind of crippling the film of the theatrical box office, with the theatrical and R-rated version. So that's been my thoughts and impression. Arrow Video's brand new 4K transfer of Spawn 1997, whether you're getting the 4K edition, whether you're getting the Blu-ray, whether you're watching an Arrow Video channel. See what you think, see if you want to revisit this film again. Much like myself, you probably haven't seen it in about 20 years. This is not an easy access film. It's had a very crappy kind of DVD. It's been locked on kind of VHS for a long time. It's not showing on broadcast TV. It's not showing on streaming services. So this will be a really good opportunity, whether you want to pick it up, whether you want to at least watch it again and see what you think many, many years down the line. See if it's as bad as you remember or as good as you remember. It definitely has an audience. It definitely has a fan base. I can see why Arrow has done this in terms of a brand new edition. And for people that are lifetime fans of this film, you're going to get a really fantastic edition. Brand new special features that really dive into every level of the production in terms of the editing, music, practical effects, actors coming back talking about the film, audio commentaries, just a really good jam-packed edition and a really fantastic transfer on top of it. So whether you're a fan of the film or not, definitely worth revisiting at least again. So love to know your thoughts and impressions on Spawn. Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews. Signing out.